Welcome down to the battlefield. It's TJ Rogers here with Jake Van Lunen. Round 13, Team Modern here in Detroit. It is Antonio Perez up against Jacob Negro. And we're going to kick things off with a chromatic sphere. That's right, it is the deck that has been absolutely crushing. Though, actually, you know, the last couple of rounds we have not been seeing this deck do as much as it was earlier in the day and yesterday. It's Clan Ironworks, and what's it up against? A Tron land and a chromatic star from Antonio Perez.
Yeah, and Jacob very happy here. He got the mirror that he wanted, and I know it's not a mirror at all, but in that I'm talking about in Team Unified, the fact that this is the chromatic sphere, the chromatic star deck on the left side. This is the chromatic sphere, chromatic star deck on the right side, and clearly the Clan Ironworks deck is a big favorite in a matchup like this. Tron decks, they crush fair strategies, but against these more effective combo decks, the fastest combo decks, they really struggle.
So from Jacob's side, we see a Terrarian and a Mind Stone on the side of Antonio. We are going to be firing down this chromatic star, activating that one. We get a green mana out of it. That lets us cast Sylvan Scrying, grab any land from our library, put it into our hand, and that is going to be the final tool required to assemble 1, 2, 3 Tron.
Yeah, now Antonio threatening massive threats like Karn Liberated on the following turn. Jacob, he's not overwhelmingly concerned with that. If he's able to, go off in the next turn or two, he should be fine. And looking at his hand, he has a lot of tools to work with. He already has the Scrap Trawler. I believe he just needs to find a Clan Ironworks, and then he may be home free.
All right, well, we are going to be activating the Terrarian, letting it sacrifice itself. Normally, you end up really using that with the Clan Ironworks, but that's not an option right now. And let's see what else we can come up with for the turn. Now there is a little bit of a clock, some powerful plays certainly available once you start dealing with 7 mana. Even a Karn coming down. Previously, we've seen one eliminate a Mox Opal from contention, I believe. A couple of powerful plays, though that particular instance that I'm thinking about, I think might have been a Nature's Claim.
Yeah, and then I believe actually the Opal was found in the process in the following turn. Anyway, this deck goes through cards so quickly.
All right, so we've got a green mana. We are going to end up casting ourselves a Scrap Trawler as well as a Mox Opal. That is enough artifacts. A Pyrite Spellbomb joins the battlefield, and that Scrap Trawler is the 3/2 for 3. Whenever itself or another artifact is put into the graveyard from play, from your graveyard you return another with a lesser mana cost. All right, it is going to be a chromatic sphere. A lot of the same cards on both sides. You said it, maybe not a functional mirror, but when a lot of the deck construction was coming together, there was the idea of these categories, right? You have your Ancient Stirrings deck, your Faithless Looting deck, and these are the two of the most popular Ancient Stirring decks that we've seen this weekend, and now they are face-to-face against each other.
Yeah, and Jacob there, he was crossing his fingers, passing the turn, hoping Antonio did not have a Karn Liberated that he could cast to get that Scrap Trawler off the table. He dodged that, but Antonio was now able to cast Ancient Stirrings and find a copy of Walking Ballista, which he can now use to get the Scrap Trawler off the table before it starts to get completely out of hand.
Yep, each of these lands producing extra additional mana. We are going to fully use that Walking Ballista to remove the Scrap Trawler. Now, one thing that we might not have done is actually, I believe that should have returned another artifact from the graveyard.
Oh, it did. It got a star back.
Oh, okay. I didn't quite see that. Okay. So we got the star back, which explains why there is the Sphere and the Terrarian, Pirate Spellbomb, Mox Opal, Mind Stone. There is also an additional artifact for that Mox Opal in the Darksteel Citadel. Scrap Trawler. Actually, I think we've got 2 additional copies of Scrap Trawler in hand. That star is going to come down to the battlefield, and we are going to be activating this. That leaves us with still potential for 4 mana at the moment. Grove of the Burnwillows, Mind Stone. Did you see Clan Ironworks? Yes, you did.
I did.
Oh my, and on an empty board, no mana from Antonio Perez. This is going to be running away with the game. Clan Ironworks coming down, and the value train has occurred. You can see the table rumbling with excitement as it gets to see this combo really just come together. Oh, the Aradar Express this time.
Very nice, very nice.
Much more tethered this one. That's good. All right, we're going to start sacrificing, producing some mana. We have got the Pyrite Spellbomb on the board. That's part of the combo. Multiple Scrap Trawlers, Cart Clan, Ironworks, lots of mana being produced. And with 2 of these, each sacrifice is going to return 2 artifacts.
Yeah, and now it's essentially just elementary for Jacob to go off. It would require a tremendous amount of whatever the opposite of luck is. Misfortune.
Ooh.
For Jacob to not go off at this point.
The old Black Lotus Mox Opal. Using that Engineer Explosives as, I mean, it just produces 2 mana for free every time that you end up running through this cycle. It's going to be good times. There's a Chromatic Star. You can guess what that's going to get back. These 2 0 converted mana cost artifacts. We're going to draw a card, and look at that. Have we made a land drop for the turn? I don't think we have. And that Inventor's Fair, we have got enough mana. We have got enough artifacts. That means that this is going to be searching right through this library and finding ourselves the Mere Retriever. And now that you have got a Retriever, some Scrap Trawlers, a Cart Clan Ironworks, and your Pirate Spellbomb, you willing to lock this one up?
Yeah, and Jacob has now demonstrated the infinite loop via being able to respond to a mana trigger, and that's going to be the game.
Good show there from Antonio. A lot of these players really willing to just accept the loop, move on, not force them to just run through it perpetually. Now, we are going to have a Snapcaster Mage on the battlefield. Looks like a Logic Knot might be in the process of getting cast, and that means that a Jace is off to the graveyard. It's Search for Azcanta up against Snapcaster. This looks to be Jeskai versus Blue-White. Tell me a little bit about how these 2 decks are going to line up.
So the Jeskai deck tends to be favored in this matchup because the burn spells are a lot more alive than things like Oust, additional copies of Path to Exile, extra copies of board sweeping effects. These burn spells can actually be used to deal with things like Jace the Mind Sculptor or Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. If the Jeskai player resolves Jace the Mind Sculptor, they can immediately start using the Brainstorm ability. Whereas if the blue-white player resolves something like Jace the Mind Sculptor, they tend to want to go upstairs so that they don't just lose it to a Lightning Helix or a Lightning Bolt.
Looks like we might see a Field of Ruin here. That's going to float some mana from the Steam Vents. That is attacking the red mana of Andrew Lopez. Alan Wu here grabbing a basic island. That's going to be matched. Hey, look at that. We brought our own basic mountain. We were ready for that. All part of the plan. Now we've got mana floating too. For now. All right, so the mana base of Alan Wu. Now, traditionally, in a lot of these control mirrors, one thing is that you'll get told is the player to miss a land drop first is at a pretty significant disadvantage. Is that hold the same level of truth when you're talking about an archetype that is lightning bolts as opposed to path to or I guess oust in this situation?
Yes, that's absolutely still true in a matchup like this. Both these decks struggle a lot to really present a powerful, aggressive game plan. Though if you are going to be the first player to start missing land drops, it is good to position yourself to win the game before it gets to the latest stages. So Andrew Lopez here, I think he made the correct play, and playing this game thus far, it looks like he's trying to be aggressive. He's trying to attack Alan's life total early. He understands that in a longer term game, he's not going to beat somebody who has access to that much more mana.
Looks like we are going to have Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, come down to the battlefield, and normally you see this come down, and you think to yourself, well, it basically starts at 5. It'll always come down, tick up, draw a card, untap a couple of lands. Seems to be the case now, but there was a little bit of consideration for what else could potentially happen. But wait, at the end step here, we are going to be casting Secure the Wastes. 3 1/1 warriors joining the fray, and if that 2 mana available is not stopping it, there's 5 power cruising towards Teferi.
Yeah, well, Alan Wu could also just fall to 3 here, in which case either a Lightning Helix or a Lightning Bolt would be enough to end the game on the spot.
Ooh, so maybe just targeting that way. We know about a Lightning Bolt in the graveyard, and it looks like that's going to do it. Andrew Lopez picking up a win using Snapcaster Lightning Bolt. Is there anything more iconic for these Jeskai decks to really close out a game?
No, not at all. And Andrew Lopez there, I really like that. We only caught the game from the middle forward, but when you start missing land drops, when your opponent's still hitting them in a control mirror, that's how you win.
Look at this. All these players lined up so nicely for us. It's Ancient Strings versus Ancient Strings. We see blue-white control or base control up against blue-white, and now it is the humans fight on the battlefield. We have got meddling mages all over the place, 3 of them. We'll have to try and figure out quite what those notes are on. We've got Champion of the Parish. We've got Thalias. We have got 2 Noble Hierarchs, both sides with an Aether Vial on 2, but definitely the most aggressive board. On the left side, in the hands of Brandon Ayers, attacking with a 5/5 that becomes a 7/7 because of these Noble Hierarchs.
Yeah, in the humans matchup, cards like Thalia, cards like Meddling Mage tend to not be very good, but basically the trick to winning a matchup like this is to get ahead on the board before your opponent does, especially in game 1. If you're able to be the person flooding the board first, the vast majority of the time it's going to result in victory.
Looks like at least one of these ones on the left is on Mantis Rider. That is going to be Reflector Mage as well. We're just getting some updated notes on there so that it's a little bit easier to grasp the situation. Oh, and that's going to be Thalia's Lieutenant. All right, so Thalia's Lieutenant, Reflector Mage, and Mantis Rider. Oh, maybe that is not Thalia's Lieutenant.
Yeah, no, it can't be Thalia's Lieutenant because there's a Meddling Mage naming Thalia's. Oh, no. A Vial. Sorry.
Oh, that was off the Aether Vial. Got
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. We're catching up. I've got this little note that I'm trying to walk through of what the names are. Didn't notice that Vial tapping. So, we're back up to where we should be. We have got that Thalia's Lieutenant throwing down some counters onto these Meddling Mages. They are going to be 3/3s, joined by that 1/1 that will continue to grow and try and match them in size. Multiple Noble Hierarchs, and actually that Thalia on the left side of the battlefield, not doing a whole lot when it comes to taxing these spells because there aren't many of them, especially here in game 1, but a 2/1 first strike is nothing to scoff at.
Yeah, so here, William is representing another copy of Thalia's Lieutenant, which is the best card he could really have in this spot with that Vial on 2. He recognizes that Thalia Guardian Throbbin on the other side of the table has first strike, and therefore we have to expect him to be able to make this Thalia's Lieutenant into at least a 3/3 during combat. In order to do that, he would need to have another copy of the Thalia's Lieutenant or a Phantasmal Image.
And Brandon Ayers, he might also just be considering the idea of now all these creatures are sideways. That means that all of mine can get in there aggressive next turn. It's going to be a Phantasmal Image copying that Thalia's Lieutenant. Now these are each going to become 4 4s, and that Thalia's Lieutenant becoming a 3/3 as well. This is going to be a hit in for 7. Brandon falling down to 9. With William Corson at 13 right now, taking a look at this board, we have got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage currently available. Something like a Thalia's Lieutenant off of this Aether Vial would actually be enough for lethal.
Yeah, he would need one way to get the Phantasmal Image out of the way because that is a blocker, and that could jump in front of the Champion of the Parish. But you're absolutely right. Things are definitely dangerous. At any moment, either player could find an angle to win this game. So this is all about race math. We've talked about race math a lot this weekend. When you're playing these Vial decks, finding the correct sequence of attacking and blocking in order to, pick up that small little window where you could win the game is really what will often decide who gets to be the victor.
We're going to be activating this Horizon Canopy here. Definitely worth noting that the return damage from William Corson is also enough to be lethal, so Brandon Ayers can't really throw everything into the fray unless he's got some other trick up his sleeve. Taking a look at his hand, I think he had a Reflector Mage, and he just drew a Mantis Rider, 2 cards that have been shut down by these Meddling Mages, but he had the idea to turn this Aether Vial up to 3, and that is really paying off this turn.
Yeah, this Vial being at 3 means that he can take out the only blocker on the other side of the table if he wants to. If he does that, however, I don't think he's presenting lethal. It looks like he only has 11 after the Reflector Mage enters the battlefield and pumps the Champion of the Parish damage. So can only put William down to 2 in this spot. So not sure how aggressive he can become. If he wants to play a middling game, he could simply Vial in a Mantis Rider, attack for 3 damage in the or 4 damage in the air, and then pass the turn, hoping to stave off any attacks from William with that gigantic Champion of the Parish on his side of the table.
There is that Reflector Mage. It's going to eliminate that Phantasmal Image. Normally, this card bounces the card back to your hand, but because Phantasmal Image copies it with the additional text of whenever it becomes the target of a spell or ability, you sacrifice it, it is just going to hit the bin. And now we are seeing that wide attack. Thalia, Meddling Mage, and Champion of the Parish, knocking William Corson down to 3. A nice magic number here when you've got a Mantis Rider in your hand.
Yeah, I think William may actually be at 2, but we'll see.
Let's see. There's 6 power from the Champion of the Parish, 4 power from the Meddling Mage and the Thalia.
Oh, you're right. You're
10.
right. It's 10. You're right.
Were you counting a 3rd power because it says Mantis Rider on it?
I have no idea why.
Maybe. Could be anything. All right, Thalia's Lieutenant. 2 Meddling Mages. Can they come up with a win? There's a Reflector Mage and a Noble Hierarch standing in their way. 4 mana and an Aether Vial on 3, trying to pull a fast one on these Meddling Mages that have uttered their words, claiming that such cards as Mantis Rider and Reflector Mage will not be joining us. But if you look at that battlefield, it looks like this Aether Vial is certainly willing to circumvent the rules. I see, is that a Phantasmal image?
I believe it is. So again, William with the ability to really put a lot of power on the table if he wants to. He could also copy a Reflector Mage.
So Thalia's Lieutenant, Reflector Mage, 2 of the really main choices that you could be looking at here. And it looks like we also, his other card in hand, a Reflector Mage.
Oh, so he could completely clear the way for an attack here. And in doing so, he's just pumping here.
Interesting that he didn't, run out that common trick that we've been seeing all weekend of using the Aether Vial in response with the Reflector Mage. Might just be looking to see what kind of blocks occur here. Just attacking with the lone Meddling Mage. Now this is interesting. It's a 5/5 crashing in. No Noble Hierarchs to make it feel that exalted vigor. And now it is off to Brandon Ayers, who I don't think has a whole lot of ability to stop this at the moment. And I think the main decision is, do you block or do you just take that hit on the chin?
Yeah, Brandon Ayers definitely running through the numbers right now. Brandon probably feels pretty safe with this Mantis Rider in hand, feeling that he'll just be able to win in the air on the following turn. He does not know about this Reflector Mage that William Corson is sitting on.
Yeah, and that's going to be really a nice aspect of the restraint that William Corson showed in not going for sort of the conventional, play down my Thalia's Lieutenant, use the Aether Vial to get in this other creature, get extra counters all across the board. Instead, being really patient and maybe just smelling out the idea of what are the options that I need to play around that lose me this game.
Yeah, he could have gone for victory that turn, perhaps playing around something there.
There is going to be the Mantis Rider off of that Aether Vial with 3 counters on it. And now the question becomes, there's 3 blockers on the opposing side. There is the potential of 5 attackers. A Reflector Mage coming in, eliminating this Mantis Rider, but is that enough? There's still going to be, I think that actually still might, that can deal 2 damage of the 3 required. So that is just going to be a pass back, a patient play here from Brandon Ayers, 4-3. This is coming down to the wire. This is game 1. These players really looking to just put the final notch in these each of these matches to see who really has the favor, because otherwise Jacob Negro on the left getting a win, as well as Andrew Lopez on the right.
And we can expect this game to end in the next turn cycle here. William Corson forced to try to end the game right now if he doesn't have another Reflector Mage. Brandon Ayers probably just going to throw everything he has onto the table.
Yep. He does not have the same restriction about that Mantis Rider not being able to come down next turn because he has the Aether Vial.
Mm-hmm.
So he could just be throwing that one down once more. So this is just a survive situation. We see William Corson really just throwing everything into the wind. Caution is no longer his game plan. Whatever it is that he has in hand, an Aether Vial on 3, lots of lands capable of casting anything that costs less than that. So whatever that one card in hand could be very fateful for William Corson, because he knows that his doom rests with Brandon Ayers.
Yeah, and here with this all-out attack, I feel like it was a desperation attack from the looks of it now. Brandon Ayers likely going to be able to win on the swing back.
Now, holding back this Reflector Mage, I wonder what the mentality is on keeping back just a creature. It's
Yeah,
Aether Vial. He knows it. All right. Leaves back one of these Reflector Mages, but that does not end up punishing him. He ends up taking a bit of a hit for 2, but that is not enough to take down Brandon Ayers, who would throw down his Mantis Rider and return fire through the air. We're going to jump down to Andrew Lopez and Alan Wu. The blue-white base matchup, a Detention Sphere down on the field, eliminating a Search for Escanta, but a Vendilion Click and a Jace the Mind Sculptor. Beautiful. Beautiful foils right now.
Yeah, that is a very pretty V-click.
You can tell just how shiny the wings are, you know?
Oh, yeah. Look at them.
I think that makes it faster,
Shimmering.
too.
Jace the Mind Sculptor being able to bounce a Baneslayer Angel back to Alan Wu's hand. That's, just about peak Jace the Mind Sculptor. When your opponent taps out for a 5-drop and you're able to resolve your Jace, simply minus it, and then pass the turn with that powerful Planeswalker on the battlefield while pressuring our opponent's life total with a V-click. This is just classic Jace the Mind Sculptor that we're watching.
It's going to be a Serum Visions here, finding a copy of Opt. The cantrips are continuing to roll in a Jace in hand for Alan Wu. Can he use that Jace? It doesn't look very impressive on this board.
It does not. Jace bouncing something like a Baneslayer Angel, that's great. But Jace bouncing something like a Vendilion Click, significantly less good. Vendilion Click has Flash, which makes it one of the better threats against Planeswalkers in this modern format.
And even just going for the Brainstorm would be fairly futile as well, because Jace starts with only 3 counters on it.
Yeah, and even if Alan decides to go upstairs with the Jace, then that Jace is still going to be in burn range after being attacked by a V-click, and will have accrued him absolutely no card advantage.
Right now, we're still going through the scry of this Serum Visions. 2 cards available, and when every single one of these games matter, it affects your teammates, anything like that, those decisions can really do a lot. And in a control matchup where the game is going to go longer and some of your cards are going to have this versatility over a longer period of time, very important for those scries. Jace the Mind Sculptor, let's see what we can do with it. It's going to take down this Vendilion Click. It's not going to die this turn because Andrew Lopez does not have the 3 mana available to flash it in at this end step and attack the Jace back. Now we've got ourselves a good old-fashioned Jace fight.
Yeah, and Jace fights are the best fights. Let's be real. So something interesting here, Alan Wu left 1 card on the top of his library with Serum Visions. I'd be interested to see whether or not Andrew Lopez values getting that card into the bottom of Alan Wu's library over, say, something like, a much more powerful effect like a Brainstorm.
Mm-hmm.
But that's definitely part of a consideration here for Andrew.
Part of the mentality might also be that because he's got that Vendilion Click back, maybe rather than time it at the end step or something like that, could try and time it post-draw step to maybe attack whatever was left on top. There is a Celestial Colonnade available as well. I suppose you could dedicate your whole turn to eliminating that Jace. And Brainstorming.
Yeah, and I mean, that seems like a great play, spending no cards, getting that Planeswalker off the table when,
Trick shot. Trick shot with the steam vents. You ever seen it do something like that? You skateboard. What was that trick?
It's just like a pop shove it.
Nice. All right. Lightning Bolt there eliminates the Jace. Struck in the middle of a storm, but I don't think there is any storm on this battlefield. All right, we have not yet used that Jace. It is going to be a Secure the Waste. Now, main phase here. Tell me about that.
So right now, Alan Wu is completely tapped out. Andrew Lopez probably assumes that Alan has sideboarded out most or all of his board sweepers. So he's
now, I think we just
understanding that he wants to secure the waste for... so he needs to sacrifice the Scalding Tarn before he can do this.
Yes. I think we just tapped a Scalding Tarn for mana, which... should probably be a mountain or an island before we push forward with anything.
That Scalding Tarn can easily turn into a land. This is a pretty easy fix, but yes, that is definitely something that happens. So let's see if we can pause this match real quick and have them make Andrew sacrifice the Scalding Tarn and then cast his Secure the Waste for 5.
And I do think that the word has gotten down there. I'm seeing...
Or 6.
Some hands. So yeah, a judge is down at the table. We're going to get that situation resolved. Let's go ahead and just talk a little bit about ways that Alan Wu, especially in what is a post-board matchup, are these decks that are well-suited We already have the one detention sphere. Is something like the Baneslayer Angel a really effective answer to a Jace and these warriors? It doesn't really strike me as such.
No, if Alan did tap out for a Baneslayer, Andrew could simply minus the Jace, continue to pressure Alan's life total with these tokens, and then have all of his mana open to wreak havoc.
So Baneslayer not a good option. We've got Field of Ruin in hand. A Jace, the Mind Sculptor from Alan Wu, he could follow up with one once more. But I think that would have about the same level of effectiveness as we had last turn, when it simply eliminated that Ventilling Click from the fray. Temporarily, it is still in the hand of Andrew Lopez.
And did Andrew end up brainstorming with Jace this turn?
I'm not entirely certain what we're getting there. The judge is resolving the situation. This might be just a matter of, because one of those cards wouldn't be in hand, going for this activation because that mana would be tapped, but going for the fetch, resolving that situation. And then when it's a pass, Alan Wu would then go back to where we would have been with that additional card in hand.
Yes. So
I think it looks kind of like this pseudo-complicated fix, but I think the end result is just going to be that, yes, we fetched. Now it's back to Alan Wu with that card in hand.
yes. So Alan Wu would be tapped out if we're rewinding to his turn.
Yes. And possibly that's just being verbally communicated rather than represented at the moment. You know, I'm not actually certain if we end up getting that Brainstorm from the Jace, though. So if that was end up just passing the turn and drawing a card, we may have lost a little bit of value from that. It's going to be a basic island that comes down to assist securing the wastes. All of these cards so lovely. It takes a lot of that time and effort, you know? Like, I can appreciate someone who took that time. Foil out the deck. Make it real shine, you know? All right, and it looks like that card that we had placed back on top is now going to jump into the hand. I think it was just a random card that ended up getting placed there. And it looks like what they ended up doing was they did a quick rewind, put a random card back on top that would then be drawn, and now we have drawn the card. We might be looking at just going for the Jace, trying to find some sort of answer, dig a little bit deeper. If the answers aren't in your hand, they might be. No, it's Cryptic Command. Ooh, didn't see that floating around in there. We are going to bounce that Jace the Mind Sculptor, play a land, and the card that we drew was Disdainful Stroke. That is going to be a really nice answer to that Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Yes, it is. Disdainful Stroke, just an excellent card in these matches. Just a hard counter for both the Fairy Hero of Dominaria and Jace the Mind Sculptor, and also Secure the Waste here. And I've been really impressed with Secure the Waste.
Yeah, it's really putting on a good show right now. And Disdainful Stroke, for anybody who is less familiar with this card, this is from the block of Khans of Tarkir. Counter target spell with converted mana cost 4 or greater.
Yeah, a nice sideboard card to have against Tron. Very good in these blue-white-ish mirrors where you're able to counter all the haymakers. Things like Teferi, things like Jace. Conveniently, it also costs 2. So when you do tap out for something like Teferi, when you have an opportunity to and untap your 2 lands, it gives you the ability to counter the Teferi or Jace that they try to play as a follow-up.
Though that Disdainful Stroke ended up getting swept off the battlefield by a Cryptic Command, the 8 mana from Andrew Lopez really paying off, countering that spell and ensuring that the Jace the Mind Sculptor would end up on the battlefield. That is going to lead to a +2. Taking a look at the top card of Alan's library, leaving it on top because we don't think it's going to be the answer, and in its attack in for 5 from these Warriors. And Andrew Lopez has got to be feeling good at this situation. We're really seeing the Jeskai deck do what it was intended to do. Contend really nicely against the opposing blue-white.
Yeah, just the ability to apply strong pressure. Andrew had a mana advantage for a turn or 2.
Now's the timing coverage where we're supposed to reference who's the beatdown, yeah?
Oh, yeah, there we go.
There we go.
I mean, we can say that Andrew is certainly the beatdown in this matchup. And earlier this weekend, we've seen Jeskai players get into trouble when they did not recognize they were the beatdown in this matchup, when they were trying to play into Blue-White's game.
right, so it looks like this matchup might be coming to a little bit of a conclusion now. Between the Humans Mirror, I think we're going to be taking a look because this one is really potentially close to its conclusion. There is a Mantis Rider. Because this might be the final stroke in this match, we're going to jump on over to see if we can find the resolution of this matchup rather than miss it and then try and pop in later, you know?
Yeah, and one thing I really like here, Brandon Ayers, sideboarding an Auriok champion in this matchup. A lot of people might be a bit surprised by that, but this card is very good in racing situations, especially if you're able to get it down early. It gains you a lot of life, and when you're playing this Humans Mirror, so much of the match really comes down to just chip shots. And this is an interesting sideboard consideration. You have a lot of cards you want to take out. You know, you don't want Meddling Mages. You don't really want Thalias. You don't really want self-freebooters. So you need to just bring in more cards. And Auriok Champion is one of those cards in the sideboard that seemingly not for a matchup like this can come in a pinch.
And now we're coming down to it. The third champion of the parish joining the fray. This is going to give them all a pretty sizable boost in their power and toughness, but we don't yet have any way to actually get them through the slog of this combat. It's going to go right back to Brandon Ayers, who has got access to this Mantis Rider. It is itself a 4/4 currently. There's also 2 copies of Noble Hierarch. This will be attacking in for 6 over the top. That's going to knock William Corson down to 4. A last Noble Hierarch in hand. Chose not to play it. I think keeping some deception because that would not actually change the clock whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, it may have also just been a mistake, but again, it doesn't change the clock, so it does not make much of a difference.
One thing that could have been an argument to play that prior to combat. Oh, and actually, it looks like we may have done so. So you might have been considering, like, what happens if I go to combat, da-da-da, do I want to do this? And I think the benefit of going for it this particular way is that if there is an answer to the Mantis Rider and he finds another one for any such reason. Ooh, is that Riders of Gavany?
I believe that is Riders of Gavany.
And you can give protection from humans?
Yep.
Oh, when it enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type, they all get protection? I think that is a lethal swing. There are no non-humans. That is going to be William Corson sweeping up the win, Riders of Gavany.
Wow. That is not what I expected.
That is the tech for the mirror. William saw this matchup coming, and he was able to clean up, taking his game win and staying in this race. Let's jump back to where we were on this side. It is now a Vendilion Click and a Snapcaster Mage joining these mighty warriors. Alan Wu at 14 right now, and this Jace the Mind Sculptor at 7. This is a massive swing in. That's going to be enough. And Andrew Lopez is actually going to clean up a match. So now Jacob Negro and Andrew Lopez both sealing up one of their match wins. We are going to be heading back over to that Humans match where Riders of Gavany just absolutely took William Corson into the deciding game.
Yeah, and already, you know, at the beginning of the match, we talked about how the players who have been most successful in this tournament were the people who came prepared for these matchups. And here we saw William absolutely prepared for a Humans Mirror with Riders of Gavany, giving all of his humans protection from humans. There we saw Andrew Lopez absolutely prepared for these blue-white X mirrors with cards like Secure the Waste. Secure the Waste is a brilliant way to punish these opposing planeswalkers. They tap out, they cast their Teferi. You can just end step, make a gigantic swath of tokens before they have an opportunity to untap those 2 lands. What are they going to do about it? It's not like they're going to keep their Terminus in post-sideboard against a control deck. Just some really, really interesting card choices here out of sideboards for these people. They were prepared for the matchups they expected to see. They saw the matchups they expected to see, and they're getting rewarded for it.
And such a shame, too, to see a card like Detention Sphere. It was holding on to a Search for Escanto, which is good, but to lose to 5 warriors when you've got a Detention Sphere in the build and already on the battlefield, it's just a shame. It was such a nice answer, you know?
Yeah, so Detention Sphere against those warriors like that, because they're tokens, a lot of the time it's pretty easy for the player, especially if they're a Jeskai, to simply kill the token that gets targeted with the sphere. And in doing so, they still have all those other tokens on the battlefield. But absolutely, if somebody taps out main phase for a big Secure the Waste because their opponent's tapped out and that person has Detention Sphere, that's some way that it could get punished.
Just another sign that Lightning Bolt is a card that you should be running in these blue-white mirrors. I heard you say it in my mind. I'm always in favor of Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's funny. I am talking pretty extensively about how I think the Jeskai deck is favored against the blue-white deck. I would still play the blue-white deck. I love this blue-white deck. It has been over the last couple of weeks, the modern leagues I've played, I've won way more with blue-white than with any other deck. So, sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
I know you're a Lightning Bolt fan. I know
if Riley
Lightning
was
Bolt's
here,
also one of my favorite cards, but
if Riley was here, he would tell you about something called the moral victory of Lightning Bolt, but I'll leave that to be his business. So it's going to be right back to William Corson and Brandon Ayers getting ready for this Game 3. And this is going to be the decider. Both of these teams currently 10 wins, 2 losses.
So this is really interesting here also. Brandon Ayers with a 1-land Noble Hierarch hand. It also looks like he has a multiple Lieutenant hand, which is exactly what you want in these mirrors. If he doesn't draw a 3rd land, though, this hand does not play out its cards very quickly. He could find himself up against an Ether Vial, against a hand that has a Noble Hierarch with 2 lands, and he could just get completely overrun. He recognizes that. That's a hard hand to mulligan in this matchup. I have to say I agree with his decision there.
He's going to be on the play in this one, as he did just take the most recent game loss. So he is actually going to be down to 6 cards, not looking at a draw in his first turn. So he's going to have to make do with that. Do you think this Humans deck is one, you know, a lot of these decks, especially when they rely on synergy elements, can struggle somewhat with mulligans. Is that something that you've noticed about the Humans deck?
Yeah, the Humans deck does not mulligan particularly well. Traditionally, decks that are Aether Vial decks don't mulligan well for exactly the reasons you talked about. You know, you're oftentimes like losing a card, going down a card, if you will, for the Vial. If you draw multiple Vials and you're on a mulligan, it's very easy to find a situation where your opponent is playing 1-for-1 games and you're just losing. So as a Humans deck, mulligans are not as good for you, are especially bad for you.
I mean, it kind of just shows also, too, how widespread the inclusion of Militia Bugler is. Just sometimes you need one more card. And when you're talking about at the very start of the game, eliminating one of them, it's the opposite direction that you really wanted to go, and that's why you're running that Militia Bugler in the first place.
Yeah, so Brandon Ayers definitely not happy with this opening hand. He has a 4-lander, I believe, that is a Kitesail Freebooter and a Reflector Mage. So this hand even worse than the first one by a pretty wide margin.
Now, 2 of these lands can get recycled into a new card. They are Horizon Canopies, but still not exactly where you want to be. It's going to be Noble Hierarch coming down for William Corson. Continuation on this right side of the battlefield of the shiny cards.
Let's see that. I guess there's a possibility that Brandon Ayers does get something with this Kitesail Freebooter.
Ooh.
Crazier things have happened.
You know what? Sometimes there has been a long history in Magic of powerful 1/2s with flying. I'll have you know. Aether Vial is going to get trapped underneath this Kitesail Freebooter. Otherwise, we are looking at a hand with Mantis Rider, Is It Staticaster, and a backup copy of Noble Hierarch. Is It Staticaster? That card is good in this matchup.
Yeah, that card is good, though it's worth noting that if you Staticaster your opponent's Noble Hierarchs and you have Noble Hierarchs in play yourself, they get shot down. This card is pretty good at helping you win a lot of combats. There's a lot of time where you have more toughness than you have power because of Noble Hierarch triggers on Noble Hierarchs themselves, and this card lets you win those wars.
Not to mention just being a solid recurable card against Phantasmal Image.
Yeah, it's very good against Phantasmal Image.
Mantis Rider comes down to the battlefield, swings in for 4. Remember that Exalted from the Noble Hierarch, and that is going to make that Kitesail Freebooter really just avoid the whole combat step entirely. It's got other priorities at the time. Reflector Mage comes down, eliminates that Mantis Rider, and we get in a Mighty Attack for 1. Reflector Mage remains on the battlefield. It's still that Noble Hierarch. Now that Mantis Rider cannot come down to the battlefield this turn. No Aether Vial that would allow it to drop in and say hello. So Cavern of Souls is going to join the battlefield. I've got a prediction that we named humans.
Yes. There's also a chance that we named illusion, but more than likely humans. This Reflector Mage was especially strong here for Brandon because he knew that William had a pair of Mantis Riders. So by being able to cast this Reflector Mage, he not only was able to bounce that Mantis Rider, but he was able to prevent William from making his most optimal play on the following turn.
Now, he uses the Noble Hierarch to cast the new one, despite having access to potentially multiple ways to produce green mana with his lands. Just an interesting thought. Mantis Rider comes down for Brandon Ayers. The 3-drops are continuing to make their way towards him. This hand looked pretty slow at the start of things, but that's going to be able to swing in for 3. He might also try and get aggressive with this Reflector Mage. He knows that it's likely going to be Mantis Riders coming down next turn, which the Reflector Mage would not interact well with.
Yeah, the Mantis Rider at this point is just an incredible aggressive threat. The Status Caster is a card that we can expect to come down here on the end step. But is a Static Caster, again, not doing a ton here. This is, again, kind of, it's a reasonable card in the matchup because of its ability to deal with images, because of its ability to deal with champions that come down at later stages.
Blocks Reflector Mage like a champion.
It does do that pretty well as a 3 toughness flash creature.
All right, so it is going to be that 4 damage that makes its way into William Corson's life total. And we have got Izzet Staticaster, these 2 Noble Hierarchs. And now it is going to be the crash of Mantis Riders. 1 more land means that you could potentially cast 2 of them this turn, as long as both of those lands that get to choose a creature type did in fact choose human.
That's true, because he needs double red.
That's exactly true. Izzet Staticaster here going to be playing a little bit of havoc with things, I imagine. The other benefit is actually you don't even need to cast 2 of these Mantis Riders. Just one of them actually only deals 1 fewer damage.
Yeah, it's attacking for 5 thanks to those Noble Hierarch triggers. So you don't have to worry about Brandon trying to trade with his Mantis Rider. You're just plowing through with a massive, massive human monk that's riding a giant insect through the sky.
And somehow we ended up with
reasonable thing.
And we ended up with airplanes, you know? Like, I'd say Riley would not have been late if he had been riding a giant insect.
You know what? That might be true. I also think it's probably less comfortable, right? Like, planes are already very uncomfortable, but riding on a giant insect?
In-flight snacks
I don't know.
would
I'd
be
be into it.
Yeah, they'd be significantly subpar.
Yeah.
In comparison. A lot less leg room, too. Well, more leg room, actually,
Yeah.
on the Mantis. Only 1 passenger. I guess that's an upside. Marshall might like that. All right, so we have got Izzet Staticaster. It is going to be just doing a little bit of a poke by the look of it. Not certain which one he was indicating with. Oh, did we just attack in for 2 with the Izzet Staticaster?
We did.
Nice. Okay. Using it for the very elusive 0-3 combat step. Much like seeing a Spellskite turn sideways, that's going to get in. It beats them all in combat and going for the Reflector Mage of all things to clear out that Mantis Rider. So William Corson ignoring the fact that he could have gone for that Mantis Rider, instead getting aggressive with 0-power creatures. There's something beautiful about that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like this play also. So William, in doing so, what he's doing here is he's basically blanking all of Brandon's hand because Brandon doesn't want to cast one of these Reflector Mages, bouncing something that costs 1 mana and doesn't really affect the board that much right now. He doesn't want to bounce a Reflector Mage for obvious reasons, and the Status Caster isn't really doing anything other than, you know, attacking for 2 and blocking stuff. But it has Flash. It's not really the kind of card you want to use a Reflector Mage on. He also knows that William has multiple copies of Mantis Rider, so he wants to hold the Reflector Mage specifically to clean those up and keep cards stranded in William's hand. But at the same time, now Brandon can't cast his own Mantis Riders because of the Reflector Mage on the other side of the table. So we're kind of watching Mantis Riders get beaten by Reflector Mages, and William Corson and his Noble Hierarchs have a big advantage here because of those Exalted triggers, and they're just helping him win the race.
Reflector Mage, really a card that, even when it was in Standard, it was an absolute powerhouse, led to some phenomenal games of Magic, I remember one of the first things is the World Championships in Seattle. There was this beautiful matchup that involved many a Reflector Mage and Spellquellers.
Yeah, that card is really good.
Oh, Kitesail Freebooter takes a look at the hand. There's nothing to take, but there is not only the 2 Mantis Riders, but it has been joined by another Izzet Staticaster.
Yeah, and double Izzet Staticaster actually can pose some pretty serious problems. Right now, those activations could get both of those Kitesail Freebooters off the table, leaving with Brandon Ayers with just a Reflector Mage.
I told you, a long history of powerful 1/2s with flying in the game of Magic. This one really, I mean, Stormcrow, is a Stormcrow better than a Freebooter right now? It's not a human, I guess, but...
Well, if one of those was a Stormcrow, it would be better than one of those Freebooters.
Oh,
right?
that's...
Because of the Staticasters?
Oh, good point. Now we have got another Freebooter. We're going to take a look at this hand again. Both players sitting on double Mantis Rider. The Stormcrows are diving in. We've officially kind of hit the dregs of what this card can do.
Yeah, this card not particularly strong in this mirror. You have a lot of cards, again, that you want to sideboard out when you're playing the Humans mirror, and there's no way that you could play enough things in your sideboard without just having a miserably bad sideboard.
Ah, yes. Kitesail Freebooter, the most noble chump blocker of Mantis Riders. There it is, one Mantis Rider coming in. We know about the Reflector Mage, and we are just going to throw that Freebooter in front of it. It was attacking as a 5/5. I have a strong suspicion that next turn we're going to be looking at the continuation of these Reflector Mages, though picks up a copy of Dismember.
Dismember is definitely a good card in the early stage of this matchup. Right now, Brandon, though, he has double Horizon Canopy on the battlefield. He's been taking some damage from those. He's also taking huge chunks out of his life total with by taking hits from this Mantis Rider with double Exalted Trigger on the other side of the table. It seems like the 4 life from that Dismember is going to be a really big punishment for Brandon in this game.
One thing that's a little bit rough is that Reflector Mage is a really nice answer to the Mantis Rider, but the Kitesail Freebooter that William Corson has is actually significantly more effective in combat than it would appear at first glance.
It's a 3-power flyer right now.
Exactly. Those 2 Noble Hierarchs with their Exalted means that even if you're able to answer the Mantis Rider, you're still getting hit for 3, maybe taking a turn off at that point for another Izzet Staticaster to come down and start clearing out your own Freebooters.
Yeah, and I mean, what William could do is he could attack with his Kitesail Freebooter, get the Exalted Triggers, and once those Exalted Triggers happen, he can cast the other Staticaster, clear the way by getting that other Kitesail Freebooter off the table, and his Kitesail Freebooter would survive because it has more than 2 toughness.
And it looks like Brandon Ayers might be running through that same scenario himself and deciding that that's not really the way that he's going to win this game. He's going to play down his own copy of Mantis Rider. And it looks like he might have been trying to get aggressive with it, see what happens. You never know. Maybe William Corson will throw down a block on it, trade. Maybe he's feeling ambitious.
Yeah, and I don't even feel like Brandon would be happy if that happened. I feel like it's Brandon's in one of those situations where, if he does get a block here, it's pretty bad for him because now, again, William can enact this play wherein he attacks with his Kitesail Freebooter, he gets these Exalted Triggers, and then he casts the other Izzet Staticaster, kills the other Freebooter, and just starts getting in free damage in the air, has a massive board advantage, has multiple Staticasters.
All right, well, that's a painful Dismember if ever I saw one. 5 damage, that's unreasonable.
Yeah.
4 damage is enough.
What's especially rough here, too, is that there is the... Ooh.
Gut shot?
A gut shot.
Oh, man. Do you remember one of the first conversations we had yesterday morning about cool sideboard cards that we expect to see?
Yeah, and a gut shot is one of those cards that can serve as a replacement for things like Dismember when a teammate wants to play that card.
There comes down the Mantis Rider. That's going to attack in for 5. The Dismember is going to eliminate that, which is going to cost a significant amount of life. That is a generic mana and then 2 of the Phyrexian black mana, which means that you can either pay a black mana or pay 2 life You add onto that the Horizon Canopy, which requires you to pay a life in order to generate mana. 5 life down, and despite the fact that he actually took no damage from that Mantis Rider, a very significant chunk eliminated from him, and this match is down to Brendan Ayers at 6, William Corson at 9. Cavern of Souls available in hand. Nothing like the 5th land to really tie things together.
Yeah, and Brendan Ayers here, even with he's flooded with multiple canopies. Normally, he would have had an opportunity to cycle through these, but because of the way the game has played out, that just hasn't really ever happened. And William is not, presenting a ton of power, but is clearly putting out enough to put Brandon's back against the wall.
Now let's add just a quick little clarification. You may have just seen that timer go from 0 back up to 4. There was a deck check at the beginning of this round, and so what we're now seeing is the result of that time extension. When the judges do, make sure that your deck is correct, give you that time to shuffle up. So there is still just shy of 4 minutes remaining in this game, in this match, before we are on turns. 4 mana available, some of it painful. Mantis Riders, Reflector Mages. What can we do? Cavern of Souls comes down to the battlefield. That means that we are at least not taking any damage in order to do so. It's going to be the Mantis Rider as the decision of this game, and it looks like there's not even going to be a blink from William Corson in giving thought to throwing this Kitesail Freebooter in the way of it. We're just going to take the 3 damage, go to 6-6, and now it is time to draw, and this could be a particularly fateful turn. Now, you cannot attack with a 5/5 Mantis Rider as well as the Kitesail Freebooter. Doing so would lose the Exalted. So producing the 6 damage exactly this turn would require something like another Noble Hierarch, or if you can find some sort of way to eliminate the blocking contention on Brandon Ayers' side, so like, say, a land and a Riders of Gavany, though actually I don't think you would have the damage at that point either.
Yeah, I think basically he can just attack with a Freebooter and have a 3/4 flyer, which is, not very good for a Mantis Rider to be facing off against.
Mm-hmm.
That does put him in a situation where he might find himself losing to a top deck Mantis Rider from Brandon, though. There are a number of ways that William could work through this where he basically, has it locked up. Another
potential play is actually attacking with that Reflector Mage. If he wants to sort of combine the attacks, because he does have access to this other copy of Is It Staticaster.
Oh, well then.
Never mind. Now this is a different take. We do still have 3 mana available potentially for that Staticaster, but Thalia's Lieutenant hits the battlefield. +1/+1 counters for all. That means that the Noble Hierarchs are now 1/2s. The Kitesail Freebooter a 2/3 at its base level. That Reflector Mage now to a mighty 3/4. That Is It Staticaster a 1/4, looking much better for the attack that it had previously. You combine that with these Is It Staticasters, though at this point that actually doesn't even do a whole lot.
Yeah, and I imagine William just wants to leave up a flyer so that he doesn't find himself losing to a Mantis Rider off the top, and then, leaving open blockers because he knows he has the extra Staticaster. Yeah, this is a good attack.
So just the Reflector Mage, that's going to get one other one thrown in its place, and from William Corson, choosing not to make any plays, leaving himself at 6. That Horizon Canopy would cost him a life. That Noble Hierarch would require tapping it. Though, at any time, it could become an Is It Staticaster, if that is what the moment calls for. It's going to be another copy of Reflector Mage hitting the battlefield, the 2/3, and what will it target? Brendan Ayers still at 6 life right now, so relatively safe from something like the Mantis Rider coming down. That double Exalted still would not quite deal it as a singular creature.
Yeah, so now clearing the way, getting the only flyer off the table.
That Mantis Rider can swing in for 3. It's got Vigilance, so there's basically no cost to do so. And that's going to knock William Corson down to 3, and we are now getting down to some of the fateful turns. I think there's Oh, no, there was no longer a Mantis Rider in hand. I thought there was, but
Yeah,
it's
one
actually
of them
just the
traded and the other one got dismembered.
exactly.
Yep.
Is it Staticaster and Kitesail Freebooter the only cards in hand? That Thalia's Lieutenant able to get a +1/+1 counter with casting the Is it Staticaster. If that comes down to the battlefield, we would have 1 damage from that, 2 damage from the Thalia's Lieutenant. We would have 1 damage apiece from these Noble Hierarchs. I don't think that that's quite enough to crash in for the full 6 just yet.
What is this card besides the Staticaster?
It's the Freebooter that just got hit by the Reflector Mage.
Okay, yeah, so he only has the Staticaster, essentially.
Basically. Might be debating bringing that one in. I guess it makes it to where... It's got haste too, doesn't it? Yeah, it's got flash and haste.
Yep.
All right, so that is going to be the Thalia's Lieutenant becoming a 2/2. We're untapping with this significantly larger board, but really it's William Corson who is under a decent bit of pressure. No flyers in the air, and if he's not able to come up with a way to actually defeat either Brandon Ayers or his Mantis Rider, he's going to be in trouble, and we are now on turn 1. Firing off this Horizon Canopy, he finds himself another land, and we are just trying to find a way through. It's a 2-mana play. Cannot make that Kitesail Freebooter because of the Reflector Mage. So whatever this other card in hand is, all of his hopes rest upon it.
Yeah, I think he needs something like a Thalia's Lieutenant. Punch through enough damage.
Whoa, there it is! Thalia's Lieutenant comes down, +1/+1 counters to everything, including the 2 Is It Staticasters, blocking the 2 largest creatures here. We are going to get an additional +1/+1 counter on the 1 Thalia's Lieutenant. If you block the Thalia's Lieutenant and the Reflector Mage, that is still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. With an attack all out from this board. This looks like exactly enough unless there is something that I just did not notice. And I think Brandon is going to run up the math really quick. He's going to pick up the cards, offer the handshake. The team of William Corson, Antonio Perez, and Andrew Lopez comes away with the win. And this is the result of something that we talked about at the beginning, in the middle, now at the end. 2 of these decks really seemed primed to handle their respective matchups.
Yeah, the Riders of Gavany was huge in Game 2 there in that Humans matchup. The Jeskai deck seemed very well poised for these control mirrors, and as a result, that team was able to win that match.
All right, well, that is going to just about do it here at round 13. For now, we will be back with more Magic right after this. Welcome back here to round 13 of Grand Prix Detroit. TJ Rogers here with Jake Van Lunen, and we have got some time walk magic for you. Now, one of these teams on something that we've seen the whole time, right? They are on Tron, they are on blue-white, and they are on humans. But this other team, they're going ahead and mixing things up a little bit. I like it. Tell me a little bit about what we're going to see in the configuration of this other team.
Okay, so the other team, it has a Hardened Scales deck. And this has been one of the more exciting decks to watch over the course of the weekend. We've gotten to watch Matt Nass play the deck masterfully. The fact that the deck now has added animation module has added a pretty new angle. If you've played against the deck much online, you know that this animation module card has the ability to let the deck go wider than it ever has before. And right now in Modern, we're seeing lots of spot removal. I think blue-white is really the only deck that really plays a decent amount of board sweeping, especially in Game 1. As a result, this animation module gives us the ability to just pay any amount of mana and make that many 2/1s, or that many 1/1s, or make our Ravager that much bigger, depending on what cards we have to go alongside it. Oh. And the deck's basically a combo aggro deck. It's the new Affinity.
All right, well, let's see if we can catch it in action at all. It's time for Time Walk Magic. We'll see you down there. Looks like we're going to be jumping in here with Josh Wiley up against Evan Nelson, and it looks like things might still be cruising a little bit. This is one where Evan Nelson and Josh Wiley are actually in their third game right now. You can see that actually Patrick Tierney already took up one of the match wins, and all right, I'm going to speed talk a little bit. We've got two Militia Buglers, a Sing Collector, what appears to be a couple copies of Reflector Mage, a Meddling Mage, Aether Vial on 4, and a couple of Thopters that have appeared inexplicably, but I suspect that Whirler Rogue up in the graveyard. On the left side of the battlefield, we have got blue-white control with Teferi, Baneslayer, Angel, a Warrior, and that Jace.
And now the board's a lot easier to call because Supreme Verdict just cleaned things up, and
it's a lot of wasted effort, really.
Yeah. Well, Jace the Mind Sculptor and Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, are ready to completely take over the game at this point.
That's much easier to say. We couldn't have jumped into this like 5 seconds later. All right, so it's Aether Vial on 4, Jace the Mind Sculptor with 3 loyalty, Teferi with 7, and that is a very dangerous place to be in. A lot of lands available for Evan Nelson. And what appears to be, now I think the situation, we see that die at the bottom of the playmat. Now, what happened is that there were the continuation of deck checks in this round. And to my knowledge, what happened is that this table B ended up going to time before the other 2 matches. So I believe that what we're going to see is the turn counter ticking up on this playmat. But as we jump to other matches, do not expect that to be the same.
Okay. So that makes sense.
Gaddock Teague is going to join the battlefield, maybe too little too late, especially because that Path to Exile is going to take it on a journey, paying 2 mana for it, because that Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. But Lyra Dawnbringer really kind of replacing the Baneslayer Angel, which ended up in the graveyard. But Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, and Jace, there's just not much more to lock up the game right now.
Yeah, it seems like everything is going Josh's way. The one thing that Josh has to worry about is how is he going to win this game on time? This is turn 3. He only gets 1 more attack after this turn. Sure, he can get Evan down to 9 this turn and then 4 the next turn, but where's that extra 4 damage coming from? Does he have a Colonnade? And he needs to find one right away. Oh, he had one already. Okay, never mind.
There we go. Another interesting consideration is that he's got timely reinforcements in hand. I think there might have been the option available for him to actually wait on that Path to Exile, cast timely reinforcements to gain both the life and the creatures, and then Path to Exile it, but I don't know if he would have had the mana to then activate the Celestial Colonnade. Ooh, Phantasmal Image comes down to the battlefield. Lyra Dawnbringers for all. Oh. All right. There's the Terminus. We're going to lose these creatures, but now.
Oh, wait. Did he just Terminus away? He's only. Oh.
Oh, this was in response to the Phantasmal Image. That means that the other Phantasmal Image goes to the graveyard, but now.
But now it's turn 5. Couldn't he have just minus
the
Jace?
Oh, wait, does he have enough mana for both Colonnades?
Oh, he may have enough mana for both
If he's got a
Colonnades.
land in hand, I think there it is.
Okay.
The land in hand means that he has got enough to activate both of these Colonnades. The swing in for 8, and Josh Wiley wins it in turn 5 of turns. That means that Patrick Tierney has also already locked one up, meaning that Ken Parson and Tyler Marklin are the 2 players remaining, and they will be deciding the fate of their teammates. Let's jump into it here. I think we are, there we go, Tyler Markland on the right. This is that Hardened Scales Affinity, and it is up against the big bad deck, the Tron deck.
Yeah, we have a World Breaker here. Breaking worlds.
Breaking worlds. Destroys an artifact, an enchantment, or a land when it enters. I imagine that it opted for that Hardened Scales. Or actually, I think it exiles it, doesn't destroy it. We have got that Hardened Scales off the field, though a Steel Overseer on an open battlefield is something to be reckoned with. It's now going to be +1/+1 counters across the field. Inkmoth Nexus already back in the wings, getting some +1/+1 counters as well, activating themselves. And this is a bad spot to be in. That Thopter is a 5/5. Sure, the World Breaker has got reach, but this Walking Ballista with 2 counters at the moment, and these 2 Inkmoth Nexuses.
Nexus.
Ooh. Sounds like a
Noxon?
dish.
Noxon?
Ooh, yeah, okay. I'm in favor of Noxon. Let's do that one. All right, so we've got an Expedition map available. Ghost Quarter also in the wings. That Ghost Quarter is an answer to one of these Inkmoth Noxes.
Yeah, Noxon.
Noxon, there we go. It's the land version of Moxon.
Yeah.
All right.
That's kind of how I was looking at it.
All right, so we are going to see another copy of Tower. Just all the more mana, all the more fun to be had with it. That is abundant. Something like, I want to really see the Emrakul. Oh, it's Ulamog. Okay, pointing it at the Walking Ballista as well as that Steel Overseer. That is going to leave the Thopter with 5 counters as well as a Thopter, or a 5/5 Thopter, a 2/2 Thopter, and the 2 Inkmoth Nexuses. I'll mix around with that one. And that 5/7 World Breaker now stands in the way. It's 16-20, but now the inevitability that Ulamog provides is actually beyond that of just regular damage.
Yeah, the fact is, 2 attacks from this Ulamog should be able to exile the entirety of Tyler's library. So Tyler, even if he's able to put blockers in the way, they're just not going to be enough. Tyler really needs to find a way to win this game within the next, 2-turn window. This turn and the next one.
It looks like we are going to block that Inkmoth Nexus. It's going to get regenerated by that Welding Jar. So now it is down to being a 3/5. We see 2 of those poison counters added to Ken Parson, as well as a hidden for 5, knocking him down to 11. Despite having this Ulamog, he is under a considerable amount of pressure. Basic Force joins the battlefield, though remember, there is still that Ghost Quarter. So these 2 infect creatures will not likely be attacking together for long, especially now that that Welding Jar is off the battlefield. Now we are going to be exiling the top 20 cards of the library. It's a 10/10, it's indestructible, but also it gets quite a walloping against that library.
It does.
I think they're getting us a count of the library at the moment, maybe trying to see what it is that we've even got left in there. We'll see what happens. That might have also just been someone, the player, getting it counted. Got to keep track of it. All right, well, Ulamog went ahead and attacked in. Now while Tyler Markland ended up doing all right, we're down to 10. That hurts quite a bit. 2 poison, however, for Ken Parson. Those are both going to activate. That Ghost Quarter likely going to be activated here. And that is going to eliminate it from the fight. We're going to find ourselves a basic land. Basic island it is. So can these 2 Thopters, can this Inkmoth Nexus get it done against this World Breaker, which stands in the way? That's going to be able to really cleanly block one of the 2 Thopters. It would end up actually dying to the larger Thopter. The consideration now is, do you try to eliminate the infect threat or the flying 2/2 Thopter?
I think Ken Parson feels pretty comfortable with either of those decisions. The truth is that, it looks like he's pretty much got this one at this point, right? He's got the World Breaker, which he can actually use to, he can block with the World Breaker to the larger token if they attack, at which point he would be able to recur the World Breaker.
And there we see Nature's Claim as well, eliminating that Inkmoth Nexus. So that is no longer on the battlefield. And now it is going to be Ulamog once more attacking in. Let's see if there are more than 20 cards in this library. How often do you get to win by mill? as a Tron player?
Usually they concede before they let you do it.
Oh, let's
This
not
is,
allow that. You
this
hold
is
on,
so
Tyler
late in the
Markland.
Swiss, come on.
You hold on to it. Let's make it happen. I think they're getting a quick review there of the cards exiled, just in case any of them are going to give an indication of what they should be worried about. We are down to 4 life for Tyler Markland. He lost 10, but remember, he gained 4 life from that Nature's Claim. So he was actually up to 14. Now, this looks like we might be once more at turns. There is going to be the attack prior to combat, and that is just going to be the handshake. Tyler ends up offering the handshake. That is no more. Ken Parson, Josh Wiley, Forrest, Camperman are going to be taking the win here in round 13. That is going to bring them up to 11-2. It's a good spot to be in heading into round 14, which is going to be the final round of the Swiss, at least.
Yeah, and being at X2, it puts you in a really nice position. You're in striking distance of the top 4 now.
All right, well.
They qualify for the Pro Tour.
That's going to do it for round 13 here. Round 14 coming up to tie up the Swiss and take us into the top 4. TJ Rogers here with Jake Van Lunen, and pretty soon you'll be seeing Riley and Eduardo here in the booth. We'll be right back.